We always hear about the heroes, right? Their epic quests, their amazing stories. But what about the villains, the monsters? Well, it turns out that behind pretty much every single legendary monster in Greek mythology, there's a mother. I mean, think about it for a second. You've got the Hydra, Cerberus, the Sphinx. These are the A-listers of ancient monsters. We know their stories, we know who killed them, but have you ever really stopped and asked, where did they come from? Well, the answer is kind of shocking, actually. They weren't just random, one-off nightmares that popped into existence. They all came from the same place. They all had the same mother. All right, so let's get into it. Who or maybe what was she? To understand her, we've got to look at her anatomy, which is, well, it's a wild ride. And her backstory? Even weirder. Okay, check this out. This comes straight from one of our oldest sources, the poet Hesiod. He says she was, quote, half a nymph with glancing eyes and fair cheeks, and half again a huge snake, great and awful with speckled skin. Can you picture that? From the waist up, a beautiful woman. From the waist down, a massive, terrifying snake. She wasn't human, wasn't a god, wasn't just an animal. She was something else entirely. So, you'd think a creature like that would have some pretty epic parents, yeah? Well, this is where the story gets messy. The ancient writers themselves couldn't even agree on where she came from. So we've got two main competing theories here. On one side, you've got Hesiod, who says her parents were the sea gods Phorcys and Ceto. That would make her siblings with other sea freaks like the Gorgons. But then, you've got this other writer, Apollodorus, who gives her a way more intense origin story. He says her dad was Tartarus, the actual pit of the underworld, and her mom was Gaia, the earth itself. So which is it? Is she a creature of the deep sea, or is she literally born from the earth and the abyss? The Greeks couldn't decide, which just adds to her whole mystery. All right, so her parents are a question mark, but her own family, ugh, we know all about them. Her partner and the kids they had, it's the stuff of nightmares. We're talking about the original monstrous power couple. So who was her partner? None other than Typhon. This wasn't just any monster. This was the guy who literally took on Zeus for control of everything. And when you put those two together, Echidna and Typhon, they created a whole dynasty of pure horror. And just look at their offspring. It's a greatest hits list of monsters. You've got Orthrus, the two-headed dog. His more famous brother, Cerberus, the multi-headed dog guarding Hades. The Lernaean Hydra, the one with all the heads. The Chimera, lion, goat, snake, all breathing fire. The Sphinx and her riddles. And the Nemean lion with its unbreakable skin. I mean, stop and think about that. Almost every single major monster that Heracles had to fight in his famous labors was one of her kids. No Echidna, no labors of Heracles. She's the secret villain behind the most famous hero stories ever. Okay, but this is where her story gets really weird. We're told she's this ancient, immortal being, but then other stories say she died. So what gives? How does an unkillable monster get killed? And look, Hesiod couldn't be more clear about it. He writes, quote, she dies not nor grows old all her days. So this isn't just a monster that's hard to kill. She's supposed to be immortal, ageless, a permanent part of the world. So, how did she die, right? If she's immortal, how is there a story about her death? It sounds like a massive plot hole. Well, here's a solution we get from a later writer, Apollodorus. Turns out she was taken out by a surprise attack. She was killed in her sleep by Argus Panoptus, the giant who had 100 eyes and, get this, never slept. So the immortal being who can't grow old gets killed by the giant who can't be surprised. It's a perfect example of how myths change and evolve over time, to patch up these little inconsistencies. But her story doesn't really end there. Because this idea of a half-woman, half-snake, it's so powerful. It's an archetype that you see pop up in other places, way beyond just Greece. Take, for example, this story from the historian Herodotus. He talks about a Scythian Echidna, another serpent woman. But instead of mating with a monster, she mates with the hero Heracles. And their kids? They become the founders of the Scythian royal line. So here, this serpent woman figure isn't a mother of monsters. She's the mother of kings. A totally different spin on the same idea. And you don't even have to leave Greece to find another one. There's a figure called Delphine. She's also described as a half-maiden, half-snake creature. And get this, she was the one who raised Typhon, Echidna's mate.
Apollo eventually kills her, but it just goes to show you how central this idea of a powerful, ancient serpent woman was to the Greek psyche.
So when you put it all together, this image of the serpent mother just keeps showing up. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Why are we so fascinated with monsters? And what does it mean that we keep coming back to this idea of a mother of monsters? Why do our biggest fears need a parent? It's a fascinating question about where we think evil really comes from.